In today's Boruto video, we talk about the possible identity and whereabouts of the two missing Otsutsukis, and explain why it's possible that Kaguya could have a connection to these two missing Otsutsukis, and how that connection might have something to do with how and why Kaguya betrayed Ishiki. Did Kaguya feed half of Ishiki's body to a 10-tailed beast to create the first god tree on Earth? Also, only a small percentage of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video. Let's go! There are many misconceptions about the Otsutsuki clan and how they harvest planets, especially when it comes to Kaguya and Ishiki. I believe that despite the fact that we have no information about this incident that occurred many thousands of years ago, we can still conclude very accurately what might have happened if we just put all the pieces together and really understand how the Otsutsukis harvest planets. The Otsutsuki clan is the oldest known clan in the universe, with only one goal: to travel across dimensions to find worlds where then 10-tailed beasts can be planted to create god trees. The 10-tailed beasts are the seeds of the Otsutsuki clan that grow into god trees. In order for the 10-tailed beast seed to become a god tree, it must first be fed with a living Otsutsuki. Therefore, clan members travel in pairs, with the lower rank serving as the sacrifice while the other watches over the tree. The sacrifice and the guardian of the god tree. However, it is not true that the lower rank simply gives their life away. The Otsutsuki to be sacrificed uses a karma to prepare a vessel with which they will be resurrected, while the Otsutsuki who watches over the tree takes the activated 10-tailed seed and places it in the center of the planet, where it then spreads its roots throughout the world and grows into a god tree. As a result, all life on the planet dies and the planet itself is also destroyed. The Otsutsukis do this to absorb all the chakra of the planet to create one chakra fruit. These chakra fruits are then consumed by the Otsutsuki so that they can evolve and gain strength and longevity until one day they themselves become gods. The quality of the fruit produced is based on the health of the Otsutsuki used as a sacrifice. This is the official explanation, but it is not really very meaningful. Rather, we need to understand why the health or quality of an Otsutsuki determines the quality of the fruit. By quality, we obviously mean the amount of chakra it contains, and thus the amount of chakra the god tree was able to absorb during the process. So a healthy Otsutsuki fed to a 10-tailed beast creates a god tree capable of spreading its roots all over the planet and thus harvesting the entire planet until everything, including the planet itself, dies. And now, very important and interesting, let's reflect this knowledge on Kaguya and Ishiki. All we know is that Kaguya and Ishiki came together to plant the god tree, but Kaguya suddenly turned against Ishiki. Amado said that Kaguya was lower ranked than Ishiki and therefore meant to be a sacrifice to the tree. But it is at this point that events just don't add up. We saw how Kaguya was the one who arrived with a god tree and even introduced herself as the guardian of the tree. And now remember how the god tree is created. To create a strong tree that can spread its roots throughout the world, it must be fed with a healthy Otsutsuki and then protected by the guardian Otsutsuki. And that was actually Ishiki's job. Furthermore, we must know that normally the god tree was supposed to destroy every single living thing on the planet until the entire planet died, which was not the case with the god tree planted on Earth by Kaguya, because the tree was not able to spread its roots all over the planet as it would have if the 10-tailed had been fed with a healthy Otsutsuki. But even if the tree Kaguya planted was obviously weak, how could Kaguya have created the god tree at all if no one was used as a sacrifice? Since we know that Kaguya and Ishiki were both alive when the tree was planted, so neither of them could have been fed to the 10-tailed beast. And even if Ishiki had been eaten by the 10-tailed beast, then the god tree would have been much stronger. Also, it doesn't make sense that Kaguya could defeat Ishiki when she hadn't even eaten the chakra fruit at that time. We all know how strong Ishiki really was, even stronger than Prime Kaguya after she ate the chakra fruit. So how the hell could she destroy him in such a way that she literally ripped his whole body in two? So we have three unanswered mysteries in the Naruto and Boruto series. First, if Ishiki and Kaguya were both alive, which Otsutsuki was fed to the 10-tailed beast to create the god tree? Second, why was the god tree so weak that it could only harvest a very small area on Earth and was unable to spread its roots across the entire planet? And third, how could Kaguya defeat Ishiki? We know that half of Ishiki's body was missing, and since we know that Kaguya was simply not strong enough to defeat Ishiki, we can assume that someone or something helped her. So what if she simply pushed or kicked him, causing him to get to close to the 10-tailed beast, which then could have bitten off Ishiki's lower half, turning into a much weaker version of the God Tree because it only ate half of an Otsutsuki. This would explain why the God Tree planted by Kaguya only absorbed a certain radius and not the whole planet, because it was just too weak. Perhaps Kaguya even did this on purpose so that the earth won't be destroyed. We know that the Otsutsukis keep their 10-tailed beast in a hole in the dimension connected to the planet to be harvested. Here Kaguya most likely could have surprised Ishiki by pushing him down to the 10-tail when he could have checked the beast, as Jigen did when Sasuke was watching him. Just look at this panel here. Theoretically, Sasuke could have done the same thing when Jigen was right in front of the 10-tailed beast. One little kick would have been enough to bring Jigen so close to the beast that he would have lost his legs. We have all seen how aggressive the 10-tailed beast reacted. I think this scene could be a clue as to how Kaguya managed to defeat Ishiki. The reason why Kaguya might have done that is unknown, but definitely not because she fell in love with Tenji, because she only met Tenji after she planted the tree. Occasionally Kaguya even demanded sacrifices to the God Tree, so she even prepared the fruit as best she could without hurting the earth, because she knew that the Otsutsukis would come to her one day and she wanted to be prepared for that day. So all sacrifices were meant to protect everyone else, basically damage control. However, when she was attacked by the human, she saw no choice but to eat the chakra fruit already, knowing that she was pregnant and needed to protect her children. Before my partner Yami continues with this video, please take a short moment to like this video. Thank you. And by the way, if you are subscribed, don't forget to hit the notification bell to make sure that you will never miss a single video.
So we have learned that the Otsutsukis usually come in pairs, so they can be sure to harvest the entire planet until the planet dies off completely. The only reason more Otsutsukis came to the planet after Kaguya and Ishiki was because none of them returned and the planet was not completely harvested either. So the question that needs to be answered is that what happened to the two missing Otsutskis and why their ruins are damaged. Assuming that they were the first Otsutskis to go to Earth, the two missing Otsutskis were the reason why Kaguya and Ishiki went to Earth, just as Kaguya was the reason why Momoshiki and Kinshiki came to Earth. To understand the reasons for these two damaged ruins, you have to take a closer look at how the stone wall works. The stone wall basically functions like a logbook documenting which Otsutskis arrived on the planet in pairs to harvest the chakra fruit, each of them containing a unique identification symbol and even a hologram showing the exact Otsutsuki member. The only reason anyone would want to destroy the symbols and thus the protocol is to hide the identity of those who came to harvest the planet or who may have just been pretending to harvest the planet. So these two missing Otsutskis came to this dimension supposedly to harvest the chakra fruit on Earth, but in reality may have other intentions that they wanted to keep a secret, which is why they destroyed all the evidence. Perhaps just like Kaguya, they had had enough of all the fighting and wanted to leave their past behind to start a new life on Earth, for which they had to leave the Otsutsuki clan. But wouldn't that be a bit too much of a coincidence that 3 Otsutsuki members happened to choose Earth as their home to escape their clan? Or are the two missing Otsutsuki somehow connected to Kaguya, which is why Kaguya followed them to Earth and decided to betray Ishiki, considering the fact that Otsutsukis can basically survive tens of thousands of years, especially much longer if they have eaten a chakra fruit at some point. It is not unlikely to assume that the two missing Otsutskis could actually still be alive and may even play an important role in the future of the Boruto series. But what makes it difficult to believe in the idea that two missing Otsutskis are still on Earth is that they should have noticed that a god tree was planted and the other Otsutskis came to Earth to destroy the planet. So if there were the two missing Otsutskis on Earth who made the Earth their home just like Kaguya, then they would have an interest in protecting the planet. But that's obviously not the case because we haven't seen any one of them. The only two other unknown Otsutskis we have seen are the ones depicted as statues in Kaguya's is lava and ice dimension. One is male and the other is female. We don't know anything about them, but since they were found in Kaguya's dimensions, it's safe to assume that they must be important to Kaguya somehow. Kaguya definitely doesn't care about the Otsutsuki clan in terms of hierarchy and aristocracy, so it wouldn't make sense for her to build a statue of the king and queen unless the king and queen are somehow related to Kaguya. Here we must keep in mind that Kaguya is actually a reference to a Japanese folktale, the story of the bamboo cutter, also known as the story of the Princess Kaguya. The story describes the life of Kaguya Hime, sent to Earth for safety during a celestial war. She later wins the affection of the Emperor of Japan. At the end of the tale, Kaguya reveals her celestial origins. Now, if we apply this story to Kaguya from Naruto, we can see the similarities very clearly. Kaguya is a celestial being who came to Earth and fell in love with the Emperor of the land of the ancestors. The reason she came to Earth in the first place is unknown. We only know that she betrayed Ishiki, who thought that Kaguya wanted to harvest the Earth with him, which was obviously not the case. Otherwise, she would have not betrayed him. So her true reason is still a mystery. If we compare Kaguya to the Japanese folktale, it would mean that she escaped from the Otsutsuki clan and sought refuge on the Earth due to a war. If we consider that Kaguya from Japanese folklore was a princess, then it is possible that Kaguya from Naruto could also be a princess, and maybe the two statues were really her parents, and thus the king and queen of Otsutsukis. But if this is the case, why was Kaguya chosen as the sacrifice of the god tree? If she really is a princess, then she should be higher in rank than Ishiki. The only way this could all fit together is if we assume that her parents were the former king and queen, who were then replaced by another Otsutsuki family who took over their royal position after a war, thus forcing Kaguya's parents to flee, who then went to Earth and destroyed their ruins to hide their identity. Kaguya then followed her parents and therefore escaped a celestial war, just like it's in the case in the Japanese folktale. The only way this could all fit together is if we assume that her parents were the former king and queen, who were then replaced by another Otsutsuki family who took over their royal position after a war, thus forcing Kaguya's parents to flee, who then went to Earth and destroyed their ruins to hide their identity. Kaguya then followed her parents and therefore escaped a celestial war. Even if Kaguya is not a princess, and the two statues are not the king and queen, and not even Kaguya's parents, it is still likely that the two statues are the same Otsutskis representing the destroyed ruins and also the reason why Kaguya came to Earth and betrayed Ishiki. The fact that one of the two statues were even shown in the Boruto manga suggests that they will be important to the future of the series. Kaguya and the two missing Otsutskis must have some connection or similarity and most likely escaped to Earth for the same reason. Now, there is also the question of whether there is an order in which the ruins are displayed so that we can see the order in which each pair came to Earth. If there is no order, then there is even the possibility that the two missing Otsutskis arrived after Kaguya and not necessarily before her, as we automatically assumed. This makes the whole situation even more complicated. So, if the two missing Otsutskis are somehow related to Kaguya and the stone wall has no system indicating the order of the arrival of the pairs, then these two Otsutskis must have arrived after Kaguya disappeared because, for example, they wanted to bring Kaguya back but found out what has happened and what Kaguya had done, whereupon they had no choice but to leave their clan and hide on Earth. Perhaps the two missing Otsutskis even came to Earth for the same reason Momoshiki did, to kill Kaguya, but were then defeated by someone else. However, this possibility does not explain why the ruins were destroyed. And if Kaguya came to Earth after the two missing Otsutskis, then the reason, as explained earlier, must be a yet unknown connection between Kaguya and the two Otsutskis, which must be the reason why Kaguya escaped to Earth. So that's it for today, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to smash the like button, and if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. See you guys in the next video. Yummy out.